Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of AstrologyAnswers.com's weekly forecast. My name is Terence. The week begins on Monday, May the 8th. This is the last week of Mercury in retrograde, which goes direct next Sunday, the 14th. But there's some positive energies towards the end of this week that can help resolve any misunderstandings, resolve any conflicts. But let's start with Monday. The moon that sets the public tone is an adventurous, outgoing, optimistic Sagittarius. And by 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time, the moon will be in harmony with lucky, expansive Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet associated with Sagittarius. So to have the moon in Sag, excellent with Jupiter, that early afternoon Pacific time, you may be feeling really upbeat and optimistic. Maybe you want to travel, update and publish, your website. That's all that publishing Jupiter energy. Mercury's in retrograde. You don't want to start anything important new yet, especially as the moon goes void of course at 1:28 p.m. to 4:33 p.m. Pacific time. And void of course, again, it's the moon's no longer making any aspects to other planets until it changes signs. So the energy is flat and unproductive. And with Mercury in retrograde, it would be a real frustrating time to start a new project. But at 4:33 p.m. Pacific time, now the moon is in more realistic, organized, grounded Capricorn, which it will be for those next couple of days. On Tuesday, with the moon in organized, sensible Capricorn, the sun in steady, sometimes stubborn, always persevering Taurus is going to be putting a spotlight on Uranus. So Uranus, all things Uranus will be in the spotlight. Uranus can rule technology, innovation, thinking out of the box. That sun, Uranus, you might be more open to trying new things. But again, you don't want to be starting anything really important with that sun Uranus. Maybe it's just a day where you're getting these ahas. You might be thinking, from the past, before Mercury was retrograde, it was like you had a good idea and then things got all lost in the mix. And maybe on Tuesday, it's like, yes, I got to get back to that. On Wednesday, as the moon continues in Capricorn, it's going to be in opposition or confrontation to irritable, impatient Mars. So that's mid-morning, like 9:11 a.m. Pacific time. That would not be a favorable time for a business meeting or trying to have a heartfelt conversation. Egos could get all snarled up. And especially with Mercury slowing down, it's intensifying and more prone to misunderstandings. Now, by 5-6 p.m. Pacific time, the moon will be in tension with Jupiter. Well, Jupiter is this outgoing, optimistic energy. But when the moon is in tension with it, it can trigger all these overinflated expectations. And as Mercury is really slowing down, often I look at Mercury in retrograde as expect the unexpected. But with the moon Jupiter, you might be expecting a lot, way too much. But at 7:06 p.m. Pacific time, the moon goes into innovative, futuristic Aquarius. But as soon as it goes into Aquarius at 0 degrees for those next 2 hours, it's going to be aligned with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that can trigger some really intense emotional reactions. Can be good for counseling, introspection, a lot of research and probing your psyche. On Thursday, as the moon continues in impersonal, brilliant, quirky Aquarius, but it's going to be in a stressful angle to rational Mercury, which is also retrograde and really slowing down. So it's really prone to a lot of irrational misunderstandings, jumping to conclusions, jumping to assumptions. But that's 6, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Friday, the first half of the day, Pacific time, Mercury, as it's really slowing down and intensifying, but it's going to be in harmony with focus, discipline, stabilizing Saturn. It's really, if the Mercury was direct, this would be really excellent for all business, financial matters. But with the retrograde, it could still be very positive, not with new business, but with going back to old business, maybe even reconnecting with a business opportunity before Mercury went retrograde. The last half of the day, saying around noon, for the rest of the day, Pacific time on Friday, now Mercury will be in harmony with Venus. Venus wants peace and harmony and compromise. So with the retrograde Mercury really slowing down, so it's so intense, but so positive with Venus, this could also be really favorable for reconciling. It might also have nothing to do with repairing a relationship that had gone off track, but you could reconnect or hear from somebody on social media, or, taking a walk in the park and running into an old friendship that you've lost touch with. But also Venus itself, the last half of the day, Pacific time, will be in harmony with Saturn. This is very good for business, but Mercury's in retrograde. But Venus-Saturn is often very favorable for manifesting creative projects. So if you've been working on a project, a creative project, prior to Mercury in retrograde, then on Friday, that Venus-Saturn, you might be completing it. It might all be really coming together. And you might also be feeling a lot more secure in a personal relationship after the retrograde Mercury was so favorable with the Venus. On Saturday, the moon is now in Pisces. But from 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time, the moon will cross over pragmatic, serious Saturn, but in harmony with Venus. That for most of you could be, and Mercury's already at a standstill, what we call stationary, because it's going to go direct on Sunday, that this could be a real heartfelt, realistic, a conversation that really finds a happy medium and resolves a lot of misunderstanding, taking us into Sunday. The Mercury goes direct. Officially, it's at 11 p.m. Pacific time, as the moon is in sensitive, compassionate Pisces throughout the day, but in harmony with the sun in Taurus. And with the Mercury pushing forwards in Taurus, which it will remain in that sign until June the 11th, with the sun in Taurus, it keeps you persevering, but slow and steady. Because also remember, when Mercury goes direct on Sunday, when you look in a telescope, it's going to look like it's hardly moving at all. So the Mercury is what we say entering its shadow phase for those next 2 weeks, because the Mercury is associated with the thinking, the mind, your curiosity. But when it's at a standstill and starting to move forwards, the mind is not as sharp, not as quick, not as confident. But the good news is, with it being in Taurus, You keep persevering. Slow and steady wins the race. But you still don't want to make any really important decisions, especially that first week after it goes direct on the 14th. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you next week with my next segment. Until then, be safe and well.